So in this video, we are going to break down the incident report in a mysterious passing of Christopher Stephen Skinner. This was a gentleman that John Paul knew well. His wife, Susie Skinner, was pictured here. This was the woman that he went out to eat with just days after Mica Miller's passing. So before we start going over the incident report, I do want to tell you a little bit about Christopher Stephen Skinner. Unfortunately, he was wheelchair bound following a drunk driving accident in a vehicle in the year 2000. Susie Skinner was his wife. She was a physical therapist. She met Christopher after his accident while he was in rehab. So by the time they met each other, he was already wheelchair bound. They fell in love and they got married. After that, years following, Christopher became somewhat of an inspirational speaker and also an author. This is his book here that he wrote called The Ultimate Learning Experience. And it told just about his story and his journey that he made following the drunk driving accident and how it changed his life forever. Now, sometime later, Christopher and his wife Susie relocated to Myrtle Beach, and this is where they became active members of Solid Rock Ministries. In 2020, Christopher's story went viral, and a bunch of country music superstars and celebrities helped raise funds for him to get the wheelchair, which was all-terrain. And this allowed Christopher to be more active, do more things with his wife that he enjoyed, such as going to the beach. They did have twins, so he was just able to be more mobile. So this is why he had the wheelchair that actually ended up being his demise. However, he had this wheelchair at the time of his passing for a year and a half. So this was something that he was familiar with. He knew how it worked. A year and a half is well enough time to learn a device and learn how it functions. September 6, 2021 was the day of the accident where Christopher ended up drowning at a community pool in Myrtle Beach. And this is where we will look at the incident report. So just as a bit of background, reports obtained from the Myrtle Beach Police Department states that earlier in the morning, Christopher asked a neighbor, Eric Tarto, that he wanted to go into the pool. So he asked Eric to unlock the gate and allow him to go in because he was expecting to meet someone by the pool so that him and that person could play chess. This person that was supposed to play chess with Christopher was never named in the article. Cameras go on to show Christopher by the pool in his wheelchair at 7:56 in the morning. He is seen stopping around the curve before suddenly, quickly going into the pool. And this is what the report shows. It's written up. So let's read this portion of the incident report. Quote, "The camera shows the victim entering into the pool area and going over the area where the chess sets are. The victim is then seen with his dog leaving that area and driving around the pool. The victim then stops at the curve in the pool and then suddenly moves quickly forward and goes into the water. The victim is seen lifting his head up a few times before the camera cuts to a different time. The camera then shows the fire department responding. The victim is on camera going into the pool at 7:56. Then a member of the fire department jumps in at 8:56. There was no one else in the pool area at the time of the incident. PFC Sheffer arrived on scene to make a copy of the camera footage." So unfortunately, we see here that it was exactly an hour to the minute from him going into the pool to the fire department getting there to help him out of the pool, exactly an hour. No one, unfortunately, would be able to survive in the water for an hour up under the water. He was trapped up under the water with his wheelchair basically holding him down into the water. This portion of the incident investigation report basically just states the name, the location. He was 41 years old. His wife's name, Susan Jeffrey Skinner, she was 46-year-old. And it also states the neighbor that unlocked the gate that led him into the pool area, which was Eric Mark Tarto at 42 years old. So here on the bottom portion, it says that the deputy requested the wheelchair be placed into the property and evidence for the family to come retrieve it. The wheelchair was transported to the police department and placed into property and evidence along with a black backpack that was with the wheelchair. This portion of the incident report appears to be from a second officer that was on the scene. It reads, upon arrival, MBFD personnel had already extracted the male victim from the pool and were performing CPR. While MBFD was tending to the victim, I began to separate witnesses from the onlookers and then evacuate the people who were not pertinent to the scene. I notified MBPD Sergeant Gibson of the situation, and he notified deputy and the crime scene investigator who arrived on the scene to perform their investigations. I was able to identify 4 witnesses who all reported that they had arrived approximately 8:30 to 8:40 in the morning of the day above and noticed an object in the pool, which they thought was a float or a toy left in the pool by one of the kids or community members the night before. They reported that they had looked closer, they realized it was one of their community members, and they knew it to be the victim, Skinner Christopher. One of the witnesses, Norris Nancy, immediately called 911. So many times after the initial incident report, they will follow up with a case supplemental report. This is that. It reads, received a phone call from Sergeant Gibson in reference to a 10-7 drowning, arrived on scene and was advised by the fire department that the victim has been transported to the hospital. The victim was wheelchair bound and has been paralyzed for 25 years and only has use of his neck muscles and biceps. I spoke with the wife of the victim who advised that his daily routine consisted of going to the pool every morning and that nothing was unusual this morning and that he wasn't that word. I reviewed video surveillance, which is motion activated. The victim makes entry into the pool with his dog, and then at 7:56 hours, his wheelchair is seen moving towards the water, and then the victim falls in along with his wheelchair, which is strapped to him, and is seen attempting to pull his head up. The victim is underwater for over 40 minutes before someone locates him and calls it in. I responded to GSR, where I was advised that the victim was on life support, but that he had no brain function. I spoke to Eric Tarto. Eric, who is the neighbor of the victim, stated that the victim called out to him and asked him if he had the key card to get into the pool, and he let him in. He advised that the victim told him that he was meeting someone at the pool to play chess with. He advised that he was unaware who the person was, and to his knowledge, there was no one at the pool. I reviewed video footage and observed the victim going into the pool around 7:52 hours and make his way towards the back of the chess where the chessboard is. The camera cuts off due to motion activation at 7:56. The victim is seen making his way towards the pool around the area and is observed going into the pool with his wheelchair, which was strapped to him. The victim is observed attempting to pull his head up but is unable to do so. The victim is underwater for 40 minutes and before paramedics arrive to the scene and render aid. The victim was transported to GSR and life-saving measures were performed. The victim was on the ventilator but had no brain activity. The wife of the victim advised that he had a didactic paperwork. So some of the strange things surrounding Christopher's passing is that this man was wheelchair bound for 21 years. He went to the pool, per his wife, every morning. This was his routine. He was very familiar with the pool. He had been in this particular all-terrain wheelchair for a year and a half. He was very familiar with this wheelchair. He was not going to get in the pool. He was not going to do rehab. He was going to the pool area just to play chess with somebody who mysteriously never showed up. Why did this person never get named? No one ever knew. I'm sure that he had to have some type of communication, whether his cell phone, whether texts, whether calling, some record of him reportedly supposed to meet this mysterious person at the pool that never came, which pretty much led him to the pool and led to his demise. So these are the questions that I have about this case. Anyone know?